Welcome, everyone. We are live. Oh, yes. Wait, what day is it? Wednesday? Oh, already? Oh, snap. It's Wednesday already. Yesterday, we touched on a Bible story, and that's what triggered this one because a lot of people want to debate whether the Bible is real or not real. I keep telling you, I'm not here to debate anything. I'm just showing you where the principles, where the laws of creation reside. So that if you want to change your life, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. If you apply the principles that you learn, you can change your life. And the first principle that most people come into contact with is the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. In other words, you reap what you have sown. That is the first principle most people come into contact with because most people garden, right? And so, where people get stuck sometimes is, well, how do you take it out of the garden and use it in your life? Well, here's how. And this was a very interesting Bible story because there was a man named Hosea. And he had a wife, and her name was Gomer. First, oh, that's your first problem. But you know what? Let's continue. Gomer was a hoe. Literally speaking, she was a prostitute. Okay. And Hosea was like, I don't care. I love her nonetheless. Now, in today's society, if we look at that story, we would call that man all kinds of names. But the way to actually look at the story and apply the story is psychologically. Here's how you do it. You see, we are all of those characters. We are Hosea and we are Gomer. Indeed, we are. So when you hear husband and hoe, the law and you, the law, those are the principles that govern creation. They are impartial. That's what Hosea was. He didn't care what Gomer did. What she did was irrelevant. Okay? Well, you see the evidence of it being irrelevant because he stayed with her. This is the story. He stayed married to a hoe. Okay. Okay. Mm. If you think about that for a moment, no man wants to stay married to. Listen, what did they say? You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. See, because we judge. But here's the beauty: we are also the hoe, but not in the sense that we think it is. Psychologically, um, being the hoe means, if you think about it, we do things. We go from pillar to post. We're indecisive. We do this, we do that. We want some of this. Oh, this is new, this is flashy. And we can't even make up our mind. We just know that this is new and shiny and we want to do it. Okay? That's what you do. You want to try everything out and everything is just so fascinating. And that's what we do as people. And in so doing all of those things, we pull ourselves away from quote unquote the husband. The husband is the principles. But you see, we cannot escape the unconditional love of the principles. Doesn't matter how high you go, how low you go, how indecisive you are. You will always experience the principle of correspondence. Always. The law is impartial. It does not judge. It doesn't say, oh, well, look at Angela. She got problems. I'm going to just leave her alone till she figures that out. The law doesn't do that. The law is ever present. And every time we do something, there is a reaction, which is the principle of cause and effect. It is that impartiality of the law that redeems. Think about that. The impartiality of the law redeems. How? By showing you, hey, I know that you've messed up. Look at where you messed up. Look at that. You see, as within, so without. So if you do this, you know this is going to happen, right? Cause and effect. You know this, right? This is how the principles will talk to you. Which gives you and I the opportunity to say, oh my goodness, you're right. If I do this, I'm going to experience this thing. But I don't want to experience that thing. So let me change the cause. The principles are not people. They're not fickle. This is why this story is important. Because I think it shows you how, for lack of a better word, the hoe behaves. Okay? It shows you how the hoe behaves. The behavior can be reprehensible. The behavior can be whatever you want to call it. However you can imagine a hoe to be. That is what we are psychologically. We don't want to commit because we may be afraid. We're wishy-washy. Mm? Mm? We are so hard on ourselves. We make a mistake and we go, oh my God. See, I told you. Look at my life. That is all the behavior of, it is all the behavior of the hoe. And the reason why that one is chosen is because when you think about a hoe, you cringe or you get mad but whatever it is, it's quite visceral. It's quite potent how you feel about a hoe. But psychologically, that is what we do as hoes. Psychologically, it is what we do. We don't trust. We just go where the next flashy thing is. We hustle, we do this, we do that. But one thing is sure. The principles never abandon. And it's not because the principles are faithful to the hoe. It is that the principles are simply faithful. They faithfully do what they do every day, all day, so that wherever we go in our lives, whatever we do in our lives, if we pay attention, we can be redeemed. Not redeemed in the sense that we hear of in Scripture, but redeemed in the sense that if you say, I do not like where I am in life at the moment, you can look at the faithfulness of the law and say, wait, I want to change this thing. So what's the first step? The first step is to recognize where I am and what I want to change. Okay, I see what I am. Well, I want to change that. Well, that's all fine and good to acknowledge, but then step 2 is, what do you want to be instead? Experience in imagination what you would be doing in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be. And as you begin to entertain it, and experience it in your mind's eye, your body begins to respond. Naturally, it responds. And when it responds, well, now you'll know, oh, yes, this is the right thing that I want to experience for me. I like how I feel when I experience this in imagination. And you just allow yourself to relax into that. Because now you're not hoping. You see, with the principles, look at Hosea. Hosea represents the principles, you know. He was faithful regardless of what his hoe wife did. Think about that. When you know what you know and how to apply the principles, we are not, what's the word I want to say? No, let me rephrase that. We tend to be so harsh to ourselves. But if we look at how faithful, it is the faithfulness of Hosea, the principles, the law, that encourages the hoe to change. Why? Because when you look at how consistent the principles are, and you line yourself up with it and you say, you know what? I can change. I don't have to hope to change. The principles tell me, as long as I know what I want to be and I see it and feel it, then it is inevitable for me to become it. I don't have to hope. I don't have to wish. I just know. And what's the evidence? That they're always there. They're always there with you, the principles, every step of the way. But you see, in order for us to get it sometimes, you need a story. People get caught up in the story and talk about, ew, why would you stay married to a hoe? She's like, oh my God. And then she looks like her name sounds, well, then we even have more problems. Gomer, save me, Jesus. Think about that. We do things sometimes that are reprehensible. We do things sometimes that are vile. But the principles, the law is ever faithful. And the faithfulness of the law does not depend on you. The law is just faithful. And because the law is just faithful, you and I have the opportunity to use that to our fullest advantage. Well, that's what Gomer did she not? She took advantage. Oh, she sure did. She took advantage of a faithful husband. Why? Because she knew he was never going to leave her, no matter what she did. But you see, when we hear that story about the husband and the hoe, we get judgmental because we're only looking at it from one perspective. But if you sit and you contemplate the story, you would recognize that they're not talking about people at all. Because think about it. This is why I stress to you, I tell it to you all the time. They're not people. They're not people. But because we get caught up in the story of people, we don't see the quote unquote hidden message. Because you can't apply people. You cannot apply people, but you can apply the attribute. Okay? You can apply the attribute. So when you see the faithfulness of the husband, who's not deterred by the behavior of the wife. That should tell you something about yourself. It should tell you, wait a minute. There's something that is sure, there's something that is reliable, there's something that is honest and faithful and true. And don't get it twisted. That thing that is faithful and true is not impartial. It does not look upon you and judge you and say, well, you're not getting it right today. Let me punish you. No. The principles do not punish, nor do they reward. The principle just simply exists. Cause and effect. Oh, God, this space. It just is what it is, and it is always faithful. So, to recognize how to be and apply the attributes of Hosea, you got to recognize that those attributes are in the law. You're bound to the law. Well, he took his vow seriously, right? You're bound to the law, for better or worse. It is psychological. So when you recognize that you can use the principles to change your life, you're never going to be abandoned by the principles. Oh, but Angela, the principles aren't people. Do you know how many people have abandoned me in my life? Well, scripture also says, though my mother and father forsake me, the Lord will take me up. Do you know what that, do you understand what that means? You see, the reason why that scripture says what it does is because humanity can sometimes be funny. Humanity, we like to put our trust and our hope in the things that the moth can eat and that fire can destroy. So when we talk about my mother and my father forsaking, well, they have to. They will die. They will leave this realm. And I know that that's hard to hear, especially if you've lost someone. And the thing is, we tend as people to put our hope, our trust in things which are fallible, temporal. But the principles encourage us with where to truly anchor ourselves in the unchanging. But Angela, everything changes. Of course, polarity. Polarity, that's the principle of polarity, is moving through a stage. It is always going to change. You see, the principles are a catalyst. They bring about change without being changed. They stay constant. And if you anchor yourself to something that is constant, you will find that the movement of the pendulum in your life, your experiences, begin to level themselves. Well, how? Because remember, rhythm compensates. How far you go to the left is how far you come back to the right. So if you're going through something and you're anchored to the principles, you know, one, how that thing is going to turn out because it's going to turn out based upon what you say it should be, upon the cause that you embody to bring about the effect. So if you're anchored to the principles, you see, the ocean can be tumultuous, life then. But if you're anchored to the principles, yeah, you're going to be right in the waves, but they don't break you. You go with them. You don't list one way or the other majorly because you're anchored to something that is secure. And how do you know it's secure if you're going to use that Bible story? Well, here's how to apply it. Recognize that the principles are steady. They are predictable. And in their predictability, they bring peace of mind. They bring comfort. Well, it's the same thing the same way every time. You can set your clock to it. That's where you'll get your peace from. By recognizing that that's what it is. You're embodying it. The moment you recognize what the principles do and how they do it, you're now anchored. And any situation that arises that we bring about, you know that as within, so without, as above, so below. You know that that's going to happen. So do you have to be stressed? No. It reduces anxiety. Do you have to long for something and not get it and be unrequited? No, you don't. The principles never do that to you. You see, as within, so without. So if you walk around unrequited, unsatisfied, you will bring about the experience. You will encounter the experience that leaves you unrequited and unsatisfied because it is law. So the law tells you to do what? Define what you want to be. Because it is life that flows through you and me. So when you look upon that story, don't judge the hoe. Why would you judge? Hosea did not judge. That's telling you the principles don't judge you. They are what they are. It is you who judges you. And as you judge, so shall you be judged. Well, that's the principle of correspondence. It's not telling you that you'll be punished. It's saying to you, as within, so without. So begin to recognize the principles at work in this world. And as you recognize the principles, you can breathe a big sigh of relief. Why would you be able to breathe a sigh of relief? Because you know how it will turn out. If you choose this is going to happen. You know how it's going to turn out. And we do it naturally every single day. It's amazing when people say, well, I used to be able to manifest big things in my life, and now I feel like I'm stuck and I can't manifest anything. I'm like, you are always in a state of showing yourself what you are. In other words, you're always in a state of manifestation. As within, so without. That is manifestation. You must always see the inner contents that are invisible. You must see them on the outside, thereby reaping what you've sown. So you see, there was no shame in Gomer. And that tells you, whatever you've done in your life, do not be ashamed of it. Because now when you walk with shame, as within, so without. Whatever you walk with. So Gomer had no shame. None. So you and I, stop. Why should you feel guilty? Listen, you start feeling guilt. As within, so without. right? As within, so without. The moment you start feeling guilty, oh my God, I've done such bad things. The question becomes, would you like to continue doing bad things? Or do you want to change? It's as simple as that. Oh, but they're gonna they're gonna think I'm such a bad person. I'm so ashamed. Do you want to change or do you want to remain as you are? That is the question. You think William Shakespeare was writing for shits and giggles? To be or not to be. To be or not to be. So when you recognize that you're making a choice, if you choose to walk with guilt and shame, ooh, that is a very heavy burden. And it is judgment. And then what happens when you walk with judgment? Yeah, as within, so without. So be like Hosea. Don't judge. Apply the principles. Because that's what he was. He was the principles. Apply them. And the principles are easy to apply. Why? Because they don't change. They're not going to leave you saying, well, I wonder what's going to happen. Nope. As within, so without. You know what's going to happen. You reap what you've sown. You know what's going to happen. And you take comfort in that. You take peace in that. You relieve your anxiety in that. In that what? Knowing that the principles are always there. They're not going to abandon you. This is why when scripture says, if you were hungry and asked for bread, why would I give you a stone? If you wanted fish, why would I give you a snake? You see the principle of correspondence? If you ask for bread, you can only get the bread. You ask for a stone, you will get the stone. So when that scripture says, if you were hungry and asked for bread, I would not give you a stone. As within, so without. But you see, again, we get caught up in the story and we want to judge. And the moment we judge, as within, so without. And the level of intensity with which that thing is on the inside of you, that is the level of intensity that you will experience it on the outside. Because rhythm compensates. Well, look at why rhythm compensates. It has to. It is correspondence, as within, so without. You go 90 degrees, you can't come back 60. So rhythm must compensate. Rhythm must give you what you have already done. You give 90%, you get 90%. So rhythm always has to compensate because rhythm is bound by correspondence. As within, so without. So you see, it doesn't matter which principle you remember the most, you do them all because there's only one, and it's called the principle or the law of creation. It is a law. It's not a man-made law. You think you can hoodwink it? You can't pull a fast one on it because it's always going to match you. So when you hear the story of Hosea, and some would want to call him a simp, oh, he got a whole wife. The fact that, man, he was trying to turn a hoe into a housewife. A what? That's now because you're seeing through the eyes of judgment. But if you see through the eyes of understanding, if you grasp the meaning of what you're listening to in the story, you would know that on any given day, well, the hoe will behave as she will or as he will, right? On any given day, the hoe changes. But Hosea did not. He was steadfast. And look at it this way. How could you love the unlovable? Society would say that the hoe is unlovable. How could you love the unlovable? Because the principles don't judge whether you are lovable or unlovable. The principles just simply respond to how you say you are. If you say you are unlovable, well, as within, so without. Are you beginning to grasp how we perpetuate problems in our lives? And the thing is, when someone asks the question, why does this always happen to me? The answer is simple. Because you keep doing the same thing, the same way, every time. But you know, if you say it like that, somebody gonna get hurt real bad. Somebody might beat you. See? Because sometimes we're just not ready to hear that it's me. No, I didn't bring this on myself, Angela. I was a child. When you were a child, you spake as a child, you behaved as a child. Because that's what you were. That is what you were. So you had to do child things. And a child's ability to grasp situations is rather limited because they don't have the experience in the world. They're learning. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. You see, when we grow up, when we mature and become adults, now is the time to question, what did I learn? And this is where the principles will show you the grace that it has within it. When you look back on your life and you see the hurt that you've endured, some people would say, well, where was God then when I needed him the most? You were too young to see it. But now you can see it. And sometimes we're so mad and we're so bitter, we can't see it. Then we become adults, we can't because we're just angry and feel betrayed and hurt. But if you look at that story, if you look at Hosea and the faithfulness of Hosea, when you recognize that faithfulness, it'll cause you to open your eyes. You no longer have to remain as you are. You notice in the story, he didn't beat his wife, he didn't browbeat his wife, he didn't demean her, he didn't tell her any such thing. I'm looking after you, and you still out here in these streets. What you gonna bring me? How am I possibly supposed to love you? The principles don't do that. The principles gently show you yourself and asks you a simple question. Are you happy with who you have become? You see, nobody gets up and says, I want to be a hoe. Gomer didn't get up one day and say that. But it was through life's experiences and causes and effects. that she became what she became. And you and I are always in a state of becoming. You never have to remain as you are. And the principles are gentle and compassionate. And why am I giving it attributes? Because the attribute is easy to apply, easy to grasp. When you recognize that you can only get corn when you plant corn, how comforting is that? If you planted corn and went out and got turnips, you would be freaking out. What the hell's going on? That's not what I wanted. I didn't plant that. What the hell's going on, man? You would freak out. So right there, you see the peace of mind. You plant corn, you get corn. You are comforted right there. If you look at it, you'll see it for what it is. There's such a thing called companionship gardening. People say, oh my God, the aphids in my garden, they're eating everything. The cabbage worms are eating everything. Oh, but look at the principles. Look at the principles. You see, cabbages are pungent, in their smell. So you want something pungent in there as well. Garlic. Or even the marigold. They're both pungent, right? And the cabbage worm, he loves pungent. He loves a pungent cabbage, but when you plant something else that is pungent, you mask the scent of the cabbage. Thereby, he's like, what's that? That's not cabbage. So thus there's nothing for him to eat. As within, so without. You have the flying aphid that wants to decimate and eat everything. But then you get the flying ladybug who loves an aphid. As within, so without. You put something that flies in there. Mosquitoes fly. But the dragonfly, outperforms the mosquito in every turn and just gobbles him up. Ooh. As within, so without. Apply the principles. So when you look at the garden, it seems so basic. We call it science. But science is only the expression. It is the outward expression of the inner. But we like to be fancy. So you see, Hosea is the representation. He is the attribute of faithfulness. He is. Gomer is the attribute of humanity. Right? So today, what state are you in? Are you in the state of husband or are you in the state of hoe? Doesn't matter which state you want to be in. You better recognize where you are, though, and apply the principles accordingly. See? This is fun, to apply the principles. You ask yourself, ooh, what can I become? What can I accomplish? What can I do? And you ask that question of yourself and you say, well, I would like to ... I would like to try that thing out. You see how excited you get by it? And you know that if you are excited about this particular thing, you remember compensation, rhythm compensates, right? It's correspondence. If you're eager and excited about that thing, you'll stick with it because you're just excited. And it pulls you through. But if you're like, ho hum, well, then that's going to be the outward expression as well. So Deuteronomy 28 would say to you, I put before you life and death. Choose life. If there's life within, well, then there will be life on the where? Outside. Exactly. As within, so without. You choose death, then what's going to be on the outside? So you see, psychologically, mentally, if you will, psychology is the study of what? The psyche of the who, what now? The mind, the awareness of man. That is what psychology is. We had our fancy words. So today, my beautiful friends, who's hanging out with us today? See, look, I just know that as I was getting ready for bed, I said, well, what do I want to talk about in the morning? Because, you know, us people, us humans, we're kind of whatever we are. And I said, let's do a Bible story so that people can comprehend or grasp where the principles are all the time. And I heard it in my head as clear as day. The husband, the hoe, the law, and you. And so I said, okay, well, let's do it. Let's get her done. And I slept peacefully, knowing that that's what we were going to talk about. You see, and lots of people would say, but Angela, that's not how you read scripture. Mm. You see, we tend to read scripture, but if we don't read scripture with the intent of application, how will we ever change? What good is a story if you can't apply it? Hmm. Hey, Melly Mel. Hey, girl. Cyber. I know, right? I don't know where it came from the depths of somewhere in my spirit. Pros Pablos. Mm. Melis, Carson, and Tej. Thank you all for being here in these YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok streets. Hey, Biz. I see you in these Twitter streets. I see you. Who's here on Fanbase with us today? Surreal is here. Miss McQueen. Yamila is here. Ray Ray is here. Oh, Ursula is here. Listen, if you guys don't follow Ursula, you should, because she does have a rather lovely podcast. What letter are we on, Ursula? Are we on R? I think so, but I could be wrong. We got Honey in the house. Michael, Casey, Flo Smiles. Dear Deborah. And Miss Deborah's in the house. Listen, thank you all for being here. I truly appreciate you more than sometimes words can express. So today, when you go through your day today, I know I'll be giggling all day long about the husband and the hoe. I know I shall be. But in that, I will remember the faithfulness of the principles of the law. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Day in and day out, the law is always with us, never leaves us, nor does it forsake. But ever so gently it whispers, is that who you want to be? Or, can you take me higher? Great song. Don't remember who sings it. But it always asks, is that who you want to be? And you simply answer yes or no. And if you say, yes, that's who I want to be, well then, as within, so without. And if you say, no, I want to be something else, now you can sit here and have this conversation that says, oh, you do you? What would you like to become? Who would you like to become? Tell me more. Paint me this picture. Tell me. That's what the principles will do. Because if you think about it, if you observe it, then when you engage with the principle of correspondence deliberately, you begin to see. We do it all the time, you know. When we begin to entertain, quote unquote, the worst case scenarios, that's what you're doing. You are deliberately applying the principle of correspondence. The moment we start with our worst case scenarios, we are using the principle of correspondence deliberately. But do you want to use it that way? Hmm? You want to bring about the worst or you want to bring about the best? Well, then, as within, so without. You begin to ponder the best case scenario. Neville Goddard says, wouldn't it be wonderful if? Wouldn't it be wonderful? Right? So he's showing you how to deliberately engage with the principle of correspondence. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Or he says, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it? Oh, oh my. Isn't it wonderful? But deliberately, that's what we do. Isn't it wonderful? Or deliberately we say, oh my God, what if? Oh, listen to the listen to the difference between the two, but feel the difference between the two. Isn't it wonderful? Feel how light and airy that is and how eager you want to be. Isn't it wonderful though? Like, oh my God. It is like totally so amazing. And then there's, but what if what if that happens? What if this happens? What if oh, the offensive difference between the two? And remember, rhythm compensates. So if you are entertaining deliberately, but what if that happens? What if we do this and that happens? What if as within, so without? And you see that worst case scenario? Oh, we tend to be intense about that, don't we? Well, the level of intensity must be matched. And if you say, well, isn't it wonderful? Wouldn't that be like totally amazing if like we totally started our own thing, like totally did that? Like, ugh, I would feel so great getting out of bed every day. Like, yeah, I couldn't even get enough of that. See? Now you deliberately entertain. You deliberately use the principle of correspondence. Oh, but Angela, that feels so weird. Does it? You're already doing it. You just not paying attention to what you're doing. But if you do, you'd giggle when you caught yourself. Oh, shoot. I was doing it one night. Catch yourself as you're walking down the street. You're walking down the street, and instead of feeling the ground beneath your feet, what are we thinking about? Oh my God, these bills. Oh my God, this heifer. Oh my God, this. Oh my God, that. That's where our mind is most of the time. But what if you were walking down the street and your thoughts were, I cannot believe I know how to apply the principles. This is amazing. Like everywhere I turn, look, see, I can hear that bird. I can see that flower. All of that is the principle. Holy cow, how amazing is that? That is friggin' awesome, man. And then you go somewhere, you encounter something, and you're like, dude, what a coincidence. I've been feeling so good. And then all of a sudden, these good things start out. What do you mean all of a sudden? There's no all of a sudden. There's as within, so without. Ain't no all of a sudden. No, as within, so without. So get excited about the fact that we know the principles and we can apply them. Angela, I don't even know what you're talking about principles. No, mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is a mental creation, or the universe is mental. Correspondence, as within, so without, as above, so below. Vibration, everything moves. How do you know that everything is moving? Even the seed that appears to be dead and dormant. You put it in the ground, you'll see its movement. Indeed, you shall. Nothing stands still. It has to move through the stages of polarity. From seed to fruit. Seed and fruit are not opposites. Seed and fruit are the same, just at different stages. And then the rhythm, the pattern in which it unfolds, the ebb and the flow of life. Well, the pattern, oh, that is a rhythm. And rhythm always compensates. How far you go to the left is how far you got to come back to the right. Because the pendulum ever swings. Because everything is moving, yes? And in that movement, we are caused. Oh, well, we are the cause. And it brings about its effect. Why? Because every cause has its effect and every effect its cause. And then last but surely not least, the principle of gender. To generate an idea, to come up with an idea. What would happen if I, dot, dot, dot. You see, you come up with an idea. Masculine. Because now that idea, you get to project it. A sculptor, we can see his projections right away because he's molding his projection into the form that the clay is taking. As within, so without. Seamstress, chef, they all do the same thing. They take it from the inside and they bring it on the outside. Absolutely everything. So the feminine would be to accept the projection and give it form. So the clay is feminine because it holds the form. So you see, my beautiful friends, I shan't prattle on any further, but I think you get it. So now, which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the husband? Or do you want to be the hoe? The funny thing is, we move between those two all day long. Angela, how could you call me a hoe? Not hoe in the physical, psychological. We go from thing to thing to thing, always longing, always wanting. That is humanity. But if you recognize the faithfulness of the principles, you will realize that you could put an end to your longing. You're not meant to be unrequited. You're meant to be satisfied. The law brings satisfaction. You don't have to take my word for it. But I know sooner or later you'll go outside and you'll either mow the grass. You might not even have grass. I don't even know why I have grass, but you know how we gotta look aesthetically pleasing right in the neighborhood? Foolishness. You out here wasting all that water and you can't eat that grass. Makes no sense. As within, so without. But you know what? Don't get me started. So today, as you go through this day, what are you moving between? Husband and hoe. And you notice how I spelt it because, I don't need anybody coming for me. Right? But anywho, let's get the chime. And as you hear the chime this morning, you might get chicken. I don't know. I thought I heard him stirring, but he might still be asleep. That little Roo, he might still be asleep, you know? Yay, Ursula, we are on R. Woo! I'm just perusing the chat really quickly so I acknowledge what's going on in the chat. But yes, thank you, Ursula. Creed, that's who sings it. Um, yeah, but no, like seriously, Miss Ursula does have an incredible podcast, and I think follow her and you will be able to access her podcast, you know, because we are all beautiful expressions of the principles of the law, you know. All of us are. Every single one of us. And every single one of us is all saying the same thing, just in our own way. Saying the same thing, just in our own way. Everyone has their unique expression. So Miss Ursula and the podcast, that is her beautiful, unique expression. And we all have one. So when it's time to acknowledge things, we acknowledge them and we go and we support each other, right? So let's get the chime, because he might sing. Itty bitty might sing. I don't know. He might be under the couch. Crazy chicken. Oh, oh. What I tell you. I don't have Alexa. I just say a little bit. Countdown initiated. 4, 3, 2. Thank you all for being here on this glorious Wednesday. And remember, today we could be a hoe, tomorrow we could be the husband. But as long as you know, go through each stage deliberately. And remember, it is not a judgment. It is simply an observation because we all do it. Indeed, we do. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, fan base. A little bit is on it this morning. Listen. Whew, his timing is impeccable. Oh, it really is. He is always on it. Yes, you are Mummy's boy. I know. I know. And he really is just such a good boy. And he wanted to share. See, he wanted to tell you to have a great day too. So I'll see you in the morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Fanbase. Fanbase, hold on, because we're going to spend 10 minutes. Fanbase, just 10 minutes. Because I got to get on the road again, right? Alrighty. Peace out, YouTube.